Hi everybody, I'm Jack. This is Raw Tropical Living. Thanks for joining me today. Hope all is well in your world. Just another quiet day here on the mountain. Me and dog up here in the cabin. I'm just really digging living up here. I don't know, it's just a totally different vibe than it was being in the house. I've been in a real peaceful place for the last few weeks. Well, an even more peaceful place. To anybody that might come down here, I don't want to make it like the house is bad. It's just, I just enjoy this smaller space, being outside more, having more fresh air. And yeah, it's just been great. I thought I would do this video today because I'm getting some questions from time to time now. You know, I've got over 900 videos, and when you know, you pick up new subscribers each month, and as time goes on, you don't expect that each one's going to go back and watch every single one of your videos, and you know, they may not be able to put certain things you say into context because they don't know your whole backstory. So I just thought I would kind of tell you a little bit of what brought me, you know, how this raw vegan journey started for me. And it literally started, this might sound a little dramatic, and this is a little like a little bit of the very first sparks of this journey. But this journey started with me under the covers over my head, shaking, praying to Jesus for a Valium. It was after the last drinking binge I ever went on. I had been, you know, when I went on drinking binges, I'm not talking about any like kiddie partying, going out at night, doing a few shots, getting drunk a few nights in a row. I'm talking about drinking morning to night for 4 or 5 days in a row until your body's about ready to shut down. And then when my body told me it was about ready to shut down, I would end up shaking under the covers, you know, trying to do whatever I could do to take the edge off. So something in me that last time that I was in that condition told me, you know, I'd already kind of like planned on cleaning up, getting a little bit healthier, getting that drinking thing under control. I had planned on doing it on January 1st, like most people have of that particular year. I can't remember the exact year. I don't want to do math right now, but ended up, I was drunk on New Year's Day, and it took me about 3 weeks into the year. So that last bender came about the 3rd week in January of 2012, I believe. So anyhow, once that was done, things immediately started changing. I dropped booze that day. I dropped cigarettes a week later, and that started the process right there. I didn't become raw, hadn't even heard about raw or vegan yet, or wasn't even thinking in that direction. It was just about starting this long road to, you know, recovering my health, my body. Now, I hadn't deteriorated bad. I don't have this story of like my health was terrible, whatever. I've always had a very good immune system, good constitution, whatever you want to call it. So and I drank hard for 30 years. That's a relevant fact right there. So for all the abuse I've heaped on my body, I came out of it, I felt fairly lucky to come out of it as unscathed as I was. So immediately, but I knew I was going to have to pay the piper eventually. So a lot of it was inspired by this heavy drinking part and wanting to repair some of the damage from that. So as I got the booze out of my system, as I stopped the cigarettes, I started slowly, you know, eating better. And I've talked about this in videos before. My natural instinct, you know, even as a drunk, I used to be healthy at times. I would clean up. I was always in the gym. I looked fit a lot of the times. And when I was, you know, getting a little bit towards the unhealthy side, I would have one of these cleanup periods. And they always instinctively went to certain principles. I would usually start out with fruit for breakfast. It goes all the way back to Fit for Life by Harvey and Marilyn Diamond that I read years ago. So that always stuck with me. So when I decided to start getting healthy again, a lot of times it would be fruit smoothies for breakfast. Remember now, I haven't heard anything about the raw vegan, not trying to be vegan, not trying to be raw. I just had that instinct, and I just knew that fruit was good. So what I did over the next 6 months or so, or up until the next big shift, was that I cut out the animal products. I was transitioning. I didn't know I was transitioning. I was just instinctively cutting those animal products. I was doing the fruits. I was doing smoothies. I was eating light until noon. I was eating lots of salads. In the evenings, I was, okay, at the time, I was still using oil and I was still heating oil, but I was sauteing vegetables. I was having a lot of just big salads for dinner. animal products were going down. I still had that protein myth in my head. Oh, you got to keep that in. So I was eating eggs. I would make an omelet about 3 times a week, put a little bit of cheese in there. But the meat consumption was going down. Meat consumption was going down to maybe 3 times, sometimes 4 times a week. So that was going down. So let's go through the rest of the time. I did pick up, on my journey, I started looking into things like antioxidants, repairing cellular damage. Now, just a little side note, in my journey, about the time my birthday came, March, I was still not drinking, but I started back drinking 1 glass of red wine again for the next few months. I never got over that. I never broke that. I would have 1 glass of red wine at night and a square of dark chocolate, just those different things that but that's good for you. So I did this up until about June of that year, and then I stumbled across a few videos, started reading about the raw vegan lifestyle. And the raw vegan, and from the weekend that I remember hearing about this, I can't put a date on it, but I do remember it was one weekend that I started watching videos. And from that weekend, it was like, boom, I went vegan. So, I'm sorry, when people talk about, okay, maybe getting to that clean version of raw is a transition, but once I decided I was vegan, I went vegan. The animal products were gone overnight like that. And then I started educating myself. I started watching videos. I started reading on the lifestyle. But there were still trials and tribulations to come. I kind of fell into this whole always, and you do your own thing. I'm just talking about me and my views when I'm talking about this channel, but this whole detox all the time. The little all they're ever talking about is detox. Oh, maybe that's detox. You tell somebody your freaking toenail is sore for the day. Oh, you're probably detoxing. So I got heavy into all these detox people and the people that don't eat very much. And I turned into a crackhead. I got emaciated. At 6'2", I was 143 pounds. That's the lowest I've weighed since I was probably 13 years old, 14 years old. So I wasn't eating. I was having low blood sugar. Every time I would stand up, I'd get lightheaded and almost fall. So I started then I got into a pattern of like, okay, I got to put some weight back on. My mom, that's the only time she's been a little bit reserved about this lifestyle, has not been 100% supportive, is the first time she saw me and she's like, what the hell have you done to yourself? I look terrible. Well, I went not in the other direction, but I just decided, okay, you got to do whatever you got to do to gain some weight back. So I started eating lots and lots of potatoes, and I was probably eating a good bit of fat at the time. I was still eating oil at the time, and I was putting a lot of olive oil on there. Well, it was a good thing sort of psychologically, because I got my weight back up at least to where I didn't look like Skeletor, or at least to where, I was walking around the city and I got real self-conscious because I've always been a heavier guy. I feel like I can walk like a king on the street. I can take care of myself. I mean, I'm street savvy. I don't do stupid things, but I've always felt comfortable wherever I go. And here I'm like a little skinny, old, weak, frail man. So got a little bit of weight back on me. And then I started settling into the process of learning this lifestyle. I started eating more food. I started gaining a little weight little by little. I started, working on getting the fats cut down. I cut the oil out pretty much completely. I mean, I'm not a fanatic on anything. There's several times a year that I still have oil, but pretty much no. I started then as I've evolved, but I've always worked through the process. I've always been seeking through this process. I haven't had the time, and that's why I guess maybe sometimes I don't relate to a lot of this whole going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I've mentioned this before. Like when somebody can tell you exactly, they can describe, oh yeah, that's the 3rd day of detox. I remember that very well because they've done the 3rd day of detox 100 times. I didn't want to do that stuff. I've really, I've been a seeker. And hey, as I always am quick to point out, my lifestyle is different than most people out there. I don't have obligations. I don't have family to take care of. I don't have, I have a lot of time to spend on this stuff and researching this stuff and learning more that's going to take me where I want to go. So, I kept exploring. I'd pick up better YouTube channels. Tanny Raw was huge along that way because it kind of laid the groundwork. I just kind of slowly, it penetrated. I was eating lots of fruit, tons of fruit. then she kind of got into my head the value of getting those greens in. I don't get all the greens in I should every day by any means, not like she does, but that thinking just kind of pushed me. Okay, greens, you do need those sweet tender greens. And then when she kind of showed me about adding adding fat to the smoothies. But also too, in other research I was doing and things I was watching and just changes I saw in my body, I've played with the fat and I've realized this uber low fat is not what I want for a long sustainable period of time. I cycle my fats. Right now I happen to be, it's ironic because I happen to be in a very low, like I'm eating very low fat for the last 3 weeks. But sometimes I'll go up to eating 15 to 18% fat. So I think you need that healthy fat for the skin and for the hair and whatever. And I was just watching a good video by a cooked vegan poking some holes in the raw vegan lifestyle, and he had very good points about how a lot of the raw vegans that have kind of this gray, sallow look to them, and they're not getting enough fat. And they look, I'm sorry, they can tell themselves whatever they want. They look horrible. They look horrible without that fat. So I've been working my way around, like playing. It's all been an experiment these last 4.5 years. And it's going to be an experiment. And what I'm doing right now, that's why I'm never one of these people like to preach fire and brimstone and talk about this lifestyle. Because I thoroughly expect that what I'm doing now, I'll look back on 3 years ago and I'll be evaluating that, and I'll have been moved on to different things. I will have evolved. We're always learning. We always should be seeking. But now my health has gotten back up. My weight's gotten back up. I'm probably 155, 160 pounds. I'd love to be about 165. A lot of little things I feel good about. Like I say, the whites of the clarity of my eyes. A lot of the things I can see don't indicate to me alcohol damage. Now, you never know. There could be things lying underneath, but when you've had a life of abusing alcohol, you watch out for the yellowing of the skin, the yellowing of the eyes, that jaundice. I got real clear eyes. I know that. My skin has improved. I feel like, I'm never gonna, I don't care about how young I look, but there's certain things that I can tell that look younger now, like, those adrenals. The adrenals have improved a lot. The black circles under the eyes and what have you, but abundant energy, abundant energy now. I'm just in a whole different place. I can't, you can't describe this stuff to people. I can tell you guys all day long. I wish I could get a few, like what back in the day were supposed to be embarrassing drunken pictures of me, so you could really get a feel for who I was. Because this ain't just like a little bit of a change where I changed a few eating things. Like I was here 5 years ago, and now I'm here. Hope to get way over here, but it's been a huge change. It's weird. Like I say, it's if you've never seen somebody fat, you can't imagine them fat. If you've never seen somebody as a raging drunk, you can't imagine them as a raging drunk. So I will finish with that thought. What I always like to tell people. Everybody's got that story. I came from a really low place, so that's why maybe sometimes, and I don't like get in people's faces with that, but if you ever pick up like the subtleties of it, that's why I just don't buy a lot of people's excuses and whatever, It's like, if you want to do it, you'll do it. If a drunk that was eating chicken wings, fried chicken, smoking barbecue, yes, I used to smoke barbecue, drinking like a fish, taking the edge off. If I can find my way onto this lifestyle and figure out how to make it work, come on. I would think most people should be able to. I'm kind of putting myself down on a lower level. I guess I expect other humans to be a little bit, start from a much better place than I did. But anyhow, that's pretty much my story. I'm sure I left some things out, but I just thought I would retell that one. Hope you guys got something out of it. Please, if you like this one, please give me a thumbs up. Hope you'll hit that subscribe button and watch more videos, and I hope you are having a wonderful week. See you guys. Peace.